It's been that way forever
for all of human history, literally.
Right,
all of
and
human
this
history.
and this big split with like CRT happened. A big fissure moment was Occupy Wall Street. There's that famous cartoon where it's all the people protesting saying we're the 99%, and then the rich guy's in the room and he says, introduce them to identity politics.
And we might get into this later, but I told Lydia I was going to bring it up. I have a jump off point, so I'm going with it. We at Human Events, we found a Tumblr post by 12 Clara, who is a user there, who basically admitted that Glee, the TV show, was the plague ship for wokeness into the American mainstream.
What?
The TV show
Plague ship
was the plague ship. This user now, 12 Clara, was one of like the leaders of the Glee online fandom on Tumblr. This post she wrote, which is basically like an epitaph to all of that, is admitting all of this. Where do you guys think the word problematic came from? Where do you guys think that the idea of the representation anger, do we have a character who fits this demographic, that demographic? Do you have a character who's this, who's that, right? That all comes, from Glee and from the original Glee fandom. And then the wars, because people get mad about it, arise from this idea of people becoming not just sympathetic for the characters, but actually empathetic by actually viewing the television character as a mirror image of themselves, where it's not only identity politics from the sense of racial and gender, but identity politics from the idea of I identify with a TV character. Because, and don't get me wrong, I love the work that Chris Rofo and James Lindsay have done tracking this stuff academically, but people have not tracked the pop culture history of wokeness to explain why it came about. And if you look at the history of Glee and Occupy Wall Street, that sort of, middle 2010s milieu, and people don't realize
social media,
that show hitting social media pre-Netflix, right? All of these things hitting at the same time just launched all of this stuff into the stratosphere.
But I think social media is the biggest driver of all of it. I think Glee played a role in pop culture, but I think it's part. When did Glee come out? Do you know what year?
It starts 2009.
Yeah.
And then it got big in 2011 is when it got big. The exact beginning of Twitter.
But I
and
still
Tumblr.
think it's social media.
No, but that's what I'm saying though. It's the combination of social media with these TV shows that are introducing people at the first time.
It's not academia. I think.
And I agree with you on that.
Yeah, Peter Boghossian and I have debated this.
This stuff may have originated there in some sense, but these guys nobody on Tumblr is going and reading these academic papers.
It's not
from the
that.
1980s.
It's that when at universities, there's a bunch of different ideologies.
Correct.
There's critical race theory.
Well, there used to be.
There used to be, but this is the one ideology, critical race theory, that comes out and expands, and it's because intersectionality was social media was a prime vector for stuffing keywords into articles. So you can say, trans women of color experiencing police brutality is the epitome of Black Lives Matter, and you fit every single keyword, you get more views, and thus critical race theory starts becoming more and more prominent. There you go. Simple
I don't see this. I don't see this as necessarily being in conjunction with that or in contrast to that. What I'm saying is you got to read this post, right? It's just amazing what she lays out. Where she's
you have it
like,
on Twitter or something?
We have the whole thing everywhere, right? Lydia, I think I sent you the one.
Where the Post Millennial did is
the Post Millennial did. Yeah. So our version is like super long and gets into like a ton of different things. They went in and did basically a summary where we just post her Tumblr post.
Do you know when they posted it?
In 2017.
I like how you.
The Post Millennial posted that?
No, the Post Millennial posted it today.
Oh, okay. Where?
And then
the title, what it's called?
It is. I think if you look up Glee, it'll probably come up.
I like how you mentioned the psychosis that can come from identifying with a TV character, which isn't a real person.
Exactly.
And
this is where
which Game of Thrones character are you? Which Glee character are you?
Exactly.
And I see these people like.
So the popularity of those shows plus intersectionality, hitting identity politics and social media at the same time. This was a TV show, by the way, that was getting 30 million people in ratings at one point. Right. This is a massive cultural force.
Here's a story from Post Millennial. Entertainment consultant admits Glee sparked the woke movement within the U.S.
Oh, did I mention that, by the way? The Tumblr user, 12 Clara, did an interview with Salon where she kind of like quasi outed herself in terms of real name and said, oh, by the way, my real name is Erin. What do you do now? I work as a Hollywood entertainment consultant.
Wow.
Nice.
Of course. They all come from Tumblr.
So were they a consultant at the time?
No. So when they were on Tumblr and involved in like the toxic Glee fandom, no. Right there. The Glee fandom is not history, it's blood. I still see it all over this website. The vague posts, the deactivated URLs. Where do you think the word problematic became popular? Where do you think the representational anger? Glee was the hungry, gaping void that consumed us all. It said, watch us and find yourself. Wow. There's something from everyone. And there's characters lesbian, characters gay, characters bisexual, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It goes on and on and on. And it said, this is your only outlet for body positivity. We are all oppressed by something, but we are different and we are outcast and we are you.
Everyone's oppressed so long as you agree with them.
Exactly.
If you challenge it and say an individual can be strong, they say no, because I think it's really simple.
Well, and this
telling
is what,
an individual
this is what peace gets into.
Telling an individual they're strong breaks their collectivism. Telling an individual they're weak and oppressed means you have to be a part of the collective, otherwise you'll be victimized.
Well, and this is amazing because it's like the show portrays all the protagonists of the show, and we do mention, of course, the Glee curse, and we get into that as well a little bit, but it portrays all of the main characters as victimized and oppressed and all of this when you've got the captain of the football team, the captain of the cheerleading squad. You know, these people, they're all gorgeous. They're great singers. They're putting on, like, somehow they're able to do Broadway level productions at like some random high school in Ohio. And they seem to be quite popular across stage and screen in universe, right? In the show. And yet they're told that they are victimized and oppressed. And then they wear that as the badge of honor. This, I'm telling you, that audience that came up watching this show and then the other shows that spun off of it, this was one of the biggest plague ships of wokeness into the mainstream.
Plague ship.
The plague ship.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, like, I'm not saying this is like, and people were trying to flame the comments, when I posted on Twitter today, they said, Posobiec, this isn't the very first place that we saw political correctness. Wasn't, I was like, guys, I'm not saying that. I'm saying this was one of the biggest vectors, but because the later seasons of it sucked, and because of the Glee curse, which, and, horrific
What's
things.
The Glee curse?
The fact that three of the main actors are now deceased.
Whoa, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, seriously. So Corey Monteith dies first. He was the original main character
Right.
And what
of
happened?
the show. He ODs 2013.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
During
Bummer.
the show's course.
Yeah.
So he OD'd, and this was the captain of the football team character who ODs. Then what happened to Mark Salling, right?
No. I don't watch Glee. I don't know who these people are.
No, the huge story though. So I think it was while the show was wrapping up, he gets busted for child porn.
Whoa.
Oof,
And
yikes.
this was sort of like the bad guy. So he was sort of like the foil for the main football player. He was like, the tight end or something on the team, but he was like the bad boy who cheated on the cheerleader with him and everything. And he gets busted for child porn, gets arrested, later hangs himself.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the other cheerleader, not the captain, but Santana.
She drowned.
And this is legitimate tragedy. This is
Yeah.
just a real tragedy. Just last year, she drowned in a lake outside of Los Angeles
Saving her baby.
while trying to save her 4-year-old son. Their
Oh,
boat
whoa.
had capsized or something.
Yeah.
So sad.
And she gets her son back in. They find the son later on alone and have no idea where the mother is. They find her body, later on, in another part of the
That's
lake.
brutal, man.
Yeah.
But,
So,
you know,
just this crazy
curse.
They call it like the Glee curse.
Do you think that it was
But I'm saying my contention is that, and as horrific as all those things are, my contention is the fact that Glee isn't in the discourse as much anymore is because people talk about it in terms of this curse, but they also totally overlook the fact that it was the plague ship that introduced a lot of wokeness to a huge broad swath, particularly of millennials who are watching this thing. Because remember, we know they weren't working in 2009, right? Nobody's got jobs. Everybody's, maybe going into more debt while they're working on their masters, and they're starting to sign up to Twitter. They're starting to sign up to Tumblr. And what are they talking about? They're talking about Glee.
and they would have been 10 and
Crazy.
12 years old. Now they're 23. Do you think that it was intentionally produced that way to do that, or just more like this is how these people happen to feel like victims and they wrote a show about
So
it?
we researched this, and then I didn't write the piece, but I did edit it. And one thing that we do track is that when the show was originally written, it was actually kind of like a parody, right? Sort of a parody of like High School Musical, and it was satirical. It was actually kind of tongue in cheek, and it was meant to be self-aware. And it was the fandom that turned it into that. So when the fandom became so incredibly tribal about, I demand that my character that I identify with go through these, aspects, or the whole idea of, if you know anything about fan culture, shipping, right? Do you guys know shipping?
Yeah,
No, what is that?
relationships.
Oh man. So, okay, Lydia, what is shipping?
So shipping is basically where you like create this mindset where these people that you see in the show are in a relationship. It's basically right. It's like a fan.
Right. Or so you want the characters to be in a relationship, but then in some aspects of some fandoms, it gets so bad that you actually start making up these like conspiracies that the actors themselves are also secretly in a relationship. They did this, by the way, with the Star Wars movies, the Disney Star Wars movies. They called themselves Reylos, right? And dead serious. And the Reylos all believed that Adam Driver and what's the girl's name? Daisy Ripley were in a secret relationship. They started harassing Adam Driver's actual wife in real life because, again, the parasocial relationship went beyond, right? So you've got an empathetic media mass psychosis, formation going on where they have an insatiable urge for their false reality, or what we might call it a metaverse reality, to come in and actually take the form in the real world, to the point where the fact that Adam Driver is actually married to someone separate and that he's a real person who's, I'm sure he's in love with his wife. That's why he married her. That she needs to be removed from the story because that does not satisfy the beliefs of the Reylos.
Dude, what are humans?
I know, right?
Hell are we doing?
Yeah, I know, right? And it's amazing and it's wild, and unfortunately it's all true. And the fact that people overlook this influence, the toxic influence, and you could look at other shows like, so the reason that I'm kind of halfway into this stuff is because I originally started my Twitter account and blog in 2012 to make fun of the Game of Thrones TV show. And so I sort of came up online through that, and then eventually got into making fun of politics, and here I am. But I remember that the Game of Thrones online fandom was just as bad, but it wasn't as big as Glee was at the time. But it was ridiculous. And I remember, like, I got kicked out of the DC Game of Thrones book club because, I remember saying I thought it was funny that people were pirating all the episodes, and so HBO wasn't getting any of the money. And these people lost their minds. They completely lost their mind. I got banned from the Game of Thrones Reddit. I got banned from all these different things because I didn't have these types of like false empathetic media relationships, whereas other people were literally, they could not separate themselves from that false reality. And I think, by the way, the most ubiquitous one of these of all, the reason I don't mention it in terms of wokeness is because it's not particularly woke, though, is Harry Potter. Right.
Oh, yeah.
And there is a reason that every aging childless millennial will always use Harry Potter as their frame of reference for literally everything.
There was this creepy post on Reddit where this teenage girl was like, my parents named me after a Harry Potter character and my brother after a Star Wars character. They're obsessed with it. We hate it. We hate all of it. We get made fun of. Millennials, man. Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Now, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.